Hello everyone and welcome at our Holo-Light webinar. Today we will talk about augmented reality in engineering, use cases and benefits, and I'm very happy that I can guide you through today's session. My name is Luis Bollinger and I'm co-founder and chief marketing officer here at Holo-Light, and I'm very happy that two of my colleagues are joining me today. Great to have you here, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So Jannick, short introduction from your side.
Yes, I'm Jannick, working in the sales team of Holo-Light, joined the company back in 2017, and I'm mainly responsible for all use cases which are related to industrial engineering.
And my name is Gabriele, and I'm the technical product owner of our application Ares, and I work with the development team in designing and producing all the functionality that comes in our software.
Yeah, so we have a lot of expertise in the technical and also in the business side when it comes to engineering and augmented reality. I'm very happy that we can do this today. And in order to let you know what will happen in the next round about 30 minutes, let's quickly have a look on the agenda and see what we have prepared. So first of all, we want to give a short introduction about Holo-Light. So for those of you who are not familiar with our company, we will introduce ourselves first, and then we jump in the topic augmented reality engineering, talk a little bit about the challenges, benefits. We have a few questions that we will cover, and then we have a more practical part where we prepared videos to show you how it actually is to work in augmented reality. You guys prepared a few case studies for us, so we will talk about real-world use cases. And then, last but not least, we come to the getting started part. So you will tell us what's necessary to start and jump into this topic. And we have a Q&A session, so feel free to ask your questions in the question part of GoToWebinar during the webinar or at the end. And then these two gentlemen will do their best to answer all of them in a perfect way. I'm very convinced that you can do it. Okay, then let's start with the company introduction. And Holo-Light was founded in 2015, and we would call ourselves really augmented reality and virtual reality experts. And we have worked in this industry now for more than 6 years, close to 7 now. And as you can see on the slide, we have worked together with many different companies in the industrial area. So companies from the automotive sector, mechanical engineering, but also healthcare and others. And on this way, we really identified that the augmented and virtual reality have a really huge potential. But we need to unleash the true potential of this technology. And we want to do this here at Holo-Light by providing the most powerful immersive streaming platform. And this is like the core of what we're doing. And a very important part in that ecosystem that we're creating is augmented reality engineering. And here we have also our own solution, which we are going to introduce today. And first of all, Gabriele, I would like to ask you to frame a little bit the topic augmented reality engineering for us.
Yeah, sure. Since augmented reality came into the market and provided the capability to load 3D file and visualize that in a real environment, one of the main things it came immediately at our eyes and our side was that we could use that to help designers and engineers to work with their 3D data in a more natural way. One of the biggest challenges in the manufacturing process, but in many industries when there is a product development, is that all the phases, they go through a lot of iteration in which you have to create prototypes. You have to rework your design and then make a second iteration with a new prototype. There is a lot of raw material involved to produce parts. And depending on the product characteristic, there are a lot of costs in terms of how much it costs to create a prototype. And also the process of distributing and deciding what goes through and what goes to the next phase. It's a long process that requires a lot of different steps. And with the CAD software, a lot of companies, they've been able to design an entire product from the very beginning just digitally. But then at a certain point, they had to enter into the physical space. And now, because of AR and because the possibility to display holograms, we have really the possibility to take away most of those iterations, most of those costs, most of this time spent with physical products. And we can also work with things that before were not even possible, because sometimes we are dealing with products that they are very big, very heavy, or they have specific material characteristics that they don't make easy to work with physical products. And the possibility now to display in proper scale, in proper size, in a real environment, a digital representation of the product, make possible for everyone to speed up the process and take fast decision in a fraction of time with a huge impact in the whole development process.
Yes, so there are definitely different benefits that come along the journey once you start to use augmented reality in engineering. And later on, when we have a look on the videos and on the use cases, we will have the chance to dive also deeper in that. For now, I would like to now hand over the ball to the audience, and we prepared a little poll for you. So it's a very easy question. Which immersive technologies are you currently using in your company? So you will now see the question in your GoToWebinar window, and you can see the options. Is it AR, VR, both technologies, none of the above, or do you not really use it now, but you plan to do it in the next 12 months? Meanwhile, Gabriele, do you have a specific view on the AR and VR part when it comes to engineering?
Well, there is one very important aspect to take into consideration, because a lot of time we see this question like, should I use AR or should I use VR? And both solutions, they have great potential, but they definitely apply into different scenarios. And one of the most common question is, okay, I want to use AR, but I see that there is AR for mobile device, or there are these like weird goggles, or there are these smart glasses that display data. And for people, not all the time is clear what is the right device and what it can bring as a value. So AR is a very, very wide scenarios, and to find the right device and find the right solution, sometimes it requires some investigation to understand what is that you're trying to achieve, and what is actually the benefit of a better device or a different device compared to the one you have selected. So this is usually something that we want to know, for example, what people see around and what they think about what they've seen applied to their working environment.
Yes, yeah, and the poll is, I think, more or less over now. Thank you very much for voting. And the result is pretty interesting, as we have 36% using both technologies, which is really something that we can also see in the market when we talk to companies directly, that both technologies are actually used in different scenarios maybe. But we also have 23% who do not yet use it, but plan to do it in the next 12 months. So I think this is also then the perfect place to be here in such a webinar and to get more information about what you can do with the technology. So thank you very much for until here. And I would like to cover a very, very important question in the beginning. What are the challenges in engineering that can actually be addressed with AR? So something you want to highlight.
To go back to what we were discussing before, one of the first things that, for example, designers, they see is that with their CAD software, they go through multiple iterations when they design a part. And sometimes they have to see if that part fit with the model. And most of this process is happening or completely digitally or completely physical. So you have to produce the parts and then put it in place and see if it works. Now with AR, actually all these steps, they can be done entirely digitally, because whatever change you do in the design, you can immediately visualize in AR and overlay the design with also a physical part. So you can mix hologram and part in order to see exactly if your design fits. And the fact that you still have access to digital capability means that, for example, you can make digital zoom in or zoom out to get close up of the details. You can, for example, collaborate with multiple people, also from remote, in order to discuss details. So, for example, the collaboration with suppliers sometimes require you to send a new design, get the part produced, ship back the part, and this is, again, a long time before you get a final decision. Another big challenge, as I was mentioning before, is materials and size. We have companies working, for example, with airplanes, and sometimes parts, they are pretty massive. And even just the time to be able to assemble, disassemble, also because of the product complexity, it's incredible in terms of cost and in terms of effort. And with a digital representation that you can visualize in the real world, like it is physically there, it helps in making fast decision and fast adjustment. So those are just some of the challenges we see on a daily basis with the clients we've been working with in the last few years.
Yes, there are many that we can address with AR, and I'd like to have a closer look also on the different company size. And Jannick, let's include you here in the conversation. And as said, there's a difference between small, medium-sized companies and the large corporates. How do you see this?
Yeah, there are a lot of differences. So, but first of all, because I'm working in sales, let me clarify. So I love to work together with both of them, with small, medium-sized companies, but also with the huge enterprises. But personally, I've made the experience when working together with smaller companies. They're definitely the faster decision makers, and that's because they have to do. So they, from their clients, they get compared with the bigger corporates who are working in the same field, who are producing similar products, and that's also the reason why they have to move forward. So they need out-of-the-box solution in augmented reality, and that's what Aris is in the end. So you don't need really much. You only need hardware, you need the software, and the last thing you need, of course, is nothing in the end. Hardware, software, a little bit of budget, and here we go. So the steps are pretty easy. You just use your CAD file, per drag and drop, you can load it inside the software and you have the first results. And that's a really quick starting thing for smaller companies. And in comparison with huge corporates, when you're working together with them, then it's pretty clear that every one of them, they have their own XR strategy. And don't need to mention that people like Mark Zuckerberg, the Metaverse thing, but also the HoloLens 2, pushed this topic enormously, especially in the last couple of months, on the priority list of the IT departments of the corporates. And here it comes to an interesting point, because when you as a startup have a nice technology, a nice software, especially in engineering like Aris, which can align with the XR roadmap, then that's pretty good. And of course you have to take care on several things, which is a little bit different to working together with smaller companies, because they have a really structured IT department. They have a really structured data workflow, the PLM system, the combination and everything. This is a really important topic. And also the data security, data pipeline. These all are topics you have to deal with. But with Aris, we have a flexible solution which can be used pretty simple. With the streaming, we have a pretty secure way to stream your CAD data to the device, to the mobile device, and to also display it in all the complexity.
But if I can add only one thing to what Jannick was mentioning, it's incredible how a technology like AR is impacting at the same time small, medium, and large organizations in different ways, but still in a very meaningful way. Because, for example, what Jannick was just mentioning is a large infrastructure in a big organization requires a lot of effort in terms of deployment time. Where do I put my software? When I start to see results? And in a very established process, and again, automotive is one of the most complex product development in the industry. Everything is streamlined where every second count in the process, because it's a long, it's between 2 and 3 years development product. And AR needs to be in the right place at the right moment, and it needs to impact every single decision the right way. But if you are a smaller company, the impact is even bigger and faster, because you can start immediately, just because you have a 3D file, to take decision, and you don't need all the infrastructure behind, because it's a technology that can run standalone. You need just a dedicated small infrastructure like Jannick was mentioning. It's a piece of hardware and piece of software, but you can work right away with your data and you can immediately see the impact. So in both cases, it's shorter for a smaller company, the time of starting to work with the technology. It's maybe longer for a large organization, but it's more tied than to the different departments. So everyone can really work with it and can work and see results from day one.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fascinating when I personally talk to customers to get the feedback also that you don't need to scale with thousands of seats and then you finally reach a point where you get a return on invest. Yeah. No, it's much faster. Yeah,
one lens, one license, and you can already see.
A small use case that has been maybe difficult in terms of the processes before, revolutionize it with the technology and you get immediate impact. And that's why smaller and larger companies can really benefit quite fast from the technology. I would be curious where you see AR best applied, in which industry or in which use case. So Jannick, you wanna go first maybe with
yeah, so in the end, let's start with use cases. So it's really relevant in prototyping, layout planning as well. and usual design review. And when we speak about design reviews, then it all starts for me by just displaying the object in 1.1, so to be not limited on the 2D screen anymore, to identify errors much earlier as an example. Then the second step would be to connect also other engineers together. So the collaboration is a really important point for me. And if you do that, then you can have a design review in a shared experience. Doesn't matter if it's locally or globally. So that's working quite good. And then the third thing is for me to do it in the play together with the real environment. So which means you can do digital overlays with real assemblies, with real products, and can use it also for quality assurance at this point.
Yeah, on top of this, actually, I think that, for example, we see today manufacturing be one of the main industry taking a lot of benefits out of this. But we have always to remember that this possibility to display holograms in a real environment is beneficial for everyone that needs to work in a real environment with real data. So, for example, just to stay in a manufacturing process, the whole product development is for sure one of the most important phases. But let's remember that, for example, the whole assembly line or the production line itself, it needs to be designed and it needs to be set up. And usually it involves like large machinery that they have to fit in a very large environment. And this is something that you build and you have really to try to design it from the architectural point of view into D, but then you never have the chance to really test it because there is no chance you can have the machinery just to see if they fit and so on. With this kind of technology, you can actually bring any possible product, as I said before, despite the size or the weight, and start to plan in a real environment, where do you want to position your line? How will the product fit with the rest of the environment? Do we have enough room to work with all the different parts? Can we stock material? So we have seen many clients coming with very incredible and smart ideas about using the hologram to do something that is super simple. We have a client that is just using the HoloLens, not just, but one of the use cases is they load this incredibly big machinery and they check if it goes through the entrance door of a stock or
it's simple as that in the end.
It's simple, but that's something that before you had to measure things and try to see if it was fitting and so on. And now you can actually simulate all of that in the real environment and take immediately decision about what would be the best way to do that. And it doesn't really matter the complexity of the product in the end, because really you can apply it to everything. It's actually incredible how easy it is.
And engineering is a quite big term. So if we really look a bit closer inside the topic, we realize that there are different use cases that are part of engineering. We realize that different verticals and industries that use or do engineering in some way can really use the technology. And we'll see more on that later. And at this point, I would say let's jump now from the question part more into the practical part. And I'm sure also our audience appreciates that a lot. And I'm very happy, Gabriele, that you brought us a few videos. And first of all, maybe you could please introduce Aries, our solution, and then we jump into the videos.
So Aries is actually our augmented reality engineering space. That's where the name comes from. And is an application that allow you to load a CAD file in Microsoft HoloLens 2 and display 3D data as hologram in a real environment. On top of that, we have a set of functionality that will allow everyone not just to see the data, but to work with it and be able to interact in a way that can provide feedback about different steps or different decisions that you have to take. Actually, just a few weeks ago, we have released the 2022 version of Ares, and 2022 marks a very important moment in time in our journey of development of the application, because for a long time we have been focusing on making easier, faster, and reliable the possibility to display CAD data. And on top of that, we had added some interaction system to let everyone be familiar with the world of the holograms. But now with 2022, we are actually challenging something that before was not even possible. We are starting to introduce a lot of functionality that will make even more useful to work with holograms, because as I said, now we are in a virtual world in which we can fight against any possible rule. We don't have gravity, we don't have any physical restriction. So we are starting to introduce functionality that will allow people to do even more than what it was possible before in real life.
Yeah, because
and that's why for us it's very important.
Viewing things in AR is definitely a very important part, but doing something with it actually. Yeah,
but that's
working.
the basic.
Yeah.
Now the idea is what we can do next, because for example, a lot of processes in the industry product development, they've been designed around the physical product and the limitation of that. But now we are actually opening the door to a lot of things that before were not possible at all, or they were very difficult to do. And now it's possible and it's cheap to do it.
Okay. So yeah, let's definitely have a look and start the video. So Gabriele, your comments, please.
So the application is actually displaying the user interface in the real world, so people can work with different menus like they are working in a real room with real devices. Of course, one of the first things is to be able to load a file. And when a user starts to work, for example, in this case, we have this example of data. You can start to load the data, position them before you start really to work with it. And this is an important phase because you want to arrange your working space the way is more convenient for you, and you can also work, as I said, overlaying virtual data with physical data. Then the user is now actually navigating this real world, but can assess the functionality all over the system. And we have a set of functionality that will allow you to be precise in working, for example, with large assembly. We know that certain products, they come with a lot of parts inside, and we have a navigation system that will allow the user to really see every single part, select the parts they want to work, and focus on the different steps. And as I was mentioning before, we have functionality like the explosion view that will allow users to take apart complex product. And again, this is not just about seeing something that a lot of CAD applications were already able to do. But now think about the possibility to disassemble a car in real time, in few seconds, to find a specific part and have a look to something that is inside the vehicle. Before, you should have disassembled physically the whole product. It's hour of work. And when you focus, for example, on smaller subset of parts, you can even start to work with more capability, because now, as you can see, for example, you can just drag in space heavy object that before you could have never moved, also to make complete different interaction. And for example, we have functionality like the measurement system that will allow the user to start to review certain detail and determine, for example, the distance between parts to see if they are now fitting with what they are designing. We can determine, for example, angle, and this is just some of the basic functionality to start to interact with your model and take decision like it is in real life. So it's not just on a 2D screen like Jannick was mentioning before.
Yes, so there are some really super cool features. I personally like the exploded view a lot, but I also have to say that the features are not just there because they're cool, because all these features, they are based on feedback from customers.
Yes,
and
we
they
work
want
a
to
lot.
use them. They want to use them in a real-world environment, and that's what I think is also so great about the features, and why all those features can help different companies and different verticals also. Yep. And as you could see, we just did a design review and had a look on this car chassis and focused now a bit more on the brake disc. And I think here is the perfect time to now bring this to the next stage and get a colleague inside. And so, Jannick, I would like to hand over to you and tell us how everything looks like in a multi-user scenario.
Yeah, let's have a look in the video. So here we can see that another colleague was joining from another location. And as Luis was mentioning, we have several tools inside the software. Each tool solves another use case. In this case, we are using the cross-section to have a look inside the CAD object. That gives us a better understanding for the file itself. And now we can see that we are also able to upload multiple files inside the software. And this can be a second CAD part, of course, or like in this scenario here, a tool where the avatar is working with. So don't need to say that all the interactions, especially with the grab functionality, they give the user a natural feeling, like touching the a wheel disc in this case. Of course, without haptical feedback, unfortunately, but it feels really natural. Then for me, and that's also a tool from the newer release, yeah, that's absolutely my highlight, as I think the collision detection, which helps in assembly processes also to document if the assembly process is feasible, like here with the hand capturing as an example.
So yeah, there are actually a lot of features that allow two different users, independent from their location, to work on the same model and do something like a design review, maybe check the assembly of a brake disc, yes, to go with a tool inside and learn a lot on the process. And we have companies that have some that benefit in a very great way. And I would say let's come to this as our next point, the case studies. And the first one is the case study at BMW. And Jannick, you just please go on and introduce us a little bit to what they do and how they benefit from engineering and augmented reality.
Yes, for sure. So especially in automotive industry, of course, they are producing around the whole year a high number of physical prototypes. And this can be hardware created by 3D prints, but that can also be hardware like clay models. And here the concept evaluation needs quite a while, because you have firstly print the hardware, then you have to try to assemble it on the real vehicle. And at BMW we were able to improve this process by using ARIS, the augmented reality engineering space. And how that looked like we can see here in the following video. Because here again the shared experience, right, between several engineers, and here they try to assemble a new let's say engine, or the whole new front of a new car. And they can do that with ARIS really good. Now think about the combination with the hand collision, but also with the hand capturing if you want to document something. And BMW is a really good example because at them we were able to speed up the whole process of the concept evaluation by up to 12 months. And next to the hardware costs they save, of course, it's an amazing example. So no words for it.
Absolutely, it's a great use case. But there's definitely also more than the automotive industry. Let's have a look on another company. And Gabriele, you can introduce us a little bit to Danfoss and what they do with ARIS.
Yes, Danfoss is actually a big player in the climate device control. And they create a lot of very complicated products. And in some cases, they have different scaling factors. So the size of these products could be actually very challenging, because sometimes they go from very small to very large product. And one of the aspect interesting about AR is that, for example, we have been focusing a lot on design and engineering in terms of product development. But AR, it's a great tool also to present already created product or staged and finalized product in terms of design to stakeholders in order to, for example, make a proper presentation of the product, discuss about the details and the technical capability of the product. And with simple tools like we saw before, model explosion or cross-section, you can actually show the product without having any physical part there. So as we discussed before, you don't need to rely on the weight, the cost of the material. And you can get into every possible detail in a short amount of time, and everyone can really see every part of the product. And it's a very important marketing tool also to advertise how the product is structured, and to train people about, for example, how to assemble the product, how to repair the product, how to do proper maintenance when it comes to just change a part. And all these things, Danfoss is actually working a lot with this kind of tool to make possible for everyone to understand the product and take care of the proper maintenance of the product. So it's an incredible way to use actually digital data.
Yes, and BMW and Danfoss, they are definitely two big corporates.
Yes.
But in the beginning, we also talked about the smaller companies that can also benefit from such a technology. And that's why we now have a look also to some of these examples. Jannick, you brought us an example from a mechanical engineering company called Tipteh.
Yeah, I like it really much because here it's everything is about mechanical engineering in this company. They are producing automated systems for industry, and so they often have the challenge that they have to install robot cells, machines and things like that at their clients who are working or who are located in other locations. And here they used in the past remote assist from Microsoft, the software, to get transmitting the pictures, the real-time pictures to the people on the 2D screen. And now we were able to boost this process up by the combination between remote assist and the Aris software, because you can start both softwares in the same step. And so you have a combination. I think we have a video of it. Yeah, here it gives a good understanding how that works. So he's doing a layout visualization with the Microsoft HoloLens, and so they can directly see how the machine should look like and what they have to do to get the machine installed.
If I can add one thing, actually, when it comes to small organization, this is my most favorite case, because it shows how one lens made a huge difference for this company. Yeah. Because they started with one lens and they were able immediately not just to change the production process, but have a huge impact on the sales process, because they came up with the idea to ship the lens containing the data to their potential client so that they could see the product and understand by themselves what does it mean to have their machinery in place and make their own evaluation. And this is something that we have never seen before, actually, because you think about, oh, it's my device and I work with it. But they have been very smart and they saw the potential of sharing it also with other people. And now they are growing in this direction. So it's my favorite client in this sense.
No, I can totally understand you. It's, absolutely. And the next one is also a very interesting case. It's our last example for today. And here we have a company that really has, maybe you could say something like an issue with prototyping costs.
Yes.
As they are a startup. And usually startups, when they start, it's pretty tough to get a lot of money for a prototype. So you need to make sure the first prototype works.
Yes, and
that's
in
important.
this case, actually, is a startup that is also challenging a very expensive market in terms of working with materials that usually they cost a lot, and prototyping with these materials means a huge investment. And you could go through many iterations before you can finally decide what is the last stage of the product. So to work with the HoloLens and to work with holograms through Ares made possible for them to talk to their client, visualize everything till almost the last stage of the production, and reduce the prototypes to a fraction, because now they can really focus on delivering just the product. And also the fact that they can immediately visualize the data on top of the real vehicle of their client is also another huge benefit, because usually you get marketing material in which someone make a nice render to show you how it will look like. But now the client could even wear the lens and look at his vehicle and see immediately the spoiler applied to their vehicle, and they could actually understand what does it means, how the shape of the car change, and it's an impressive scenario. And for a company like this, is a huge saving. It's a huge saving in time, but in money in particular.
Yes, absolutely. So some great examples of how you can use augmented reality in an engineering use case scenario. We have a few questions that I would like to go through. And the first one is, very often people ask us, okay, what kind of infrastructure do you need to set up something like a use case like this? Cloud or on-premise is a very important topic. And the topic of streaming. So, Gabriele, can you please talk a little bit about this?
Yes, of course. So technically, we support every possible infrastructure, because, as I said in the beginning, for us the goal was to try to bring this technology to everyone. So we have solution for on-premise and for cloud. And what is the key factor to decide if you want to go on-premise and on cloud? As we were discussing before, certain organizations, like large organizations, they have a very strong IT, they have a lot of hardware already in place. So the first question is, can I just deploy the software inside my infrastructure and work with it? And that, of course, the answer is yes, because on-premise, you could have your own hardware, and if maybe it's a powerful hardware, you can for sure get all the benefits immediately. But for example, for smaller companies, sometimes the IT infrastructure is very small or not existing or barely minimal. And the question is, do I need to get dedicated hardware just to be able to do this kind of activity? And for this kind of situation, cloud becomes very useful because you can always have the right size of machine available for your needs. And you really just pay for the usage. So whenever you need it, it's available, but you don't need to maintain it. So the overall cost gets very low in the beginning. And if you are not yet convinced and you are not yet investing a large amount of money, cloud is for sure very flexible. But on the other side, also for large organization, cloud today, we know it's a very important structure, because with the cloud infrastructure, you know that you have always, everywhere available everything you need to work with. And you can even extend it, as I was mentioning before, for example, to partner or supplier. So it's a way wider infrastructure that everyone can benefit, and can upscale depending on the complexity and the size of your data. Because we have to remember that certain CAD files, they are pretty impressive, and with cloud system, you can always get all the power you need to be able to properly work with it. And this is, of course, make the flexibility.
Absolutely, yeah. And
absolutely,
since a short time, we are also offering a cloud version of Aries.
Absolutely.
A software as a service solution.
Correct.
Which gives you like the access to the power of the cloud, so that you don't need to reduce your 3D CAD data. You can visualize it in high quality. Just as you mentioned, this is very important to have a good visualization.
And the only hardware you need in this sense is the HoloLens.
Yes.
Once you have the HoloLens, wherever you are, you can connect to a machine and
absolutely
be sure that you can work.
Okay. So at this point, I would like to talk about the future plans that we have for Aries itself, but also for the big picture that is coming when it comes to engineering and augmented reality. Anything you want to say about that, Gabriele?
As I said before, with 2022, we are starting to look at creating tasks that before no one was able to do, or at least it was very hard to do. So we are introducing a lot of functionality in terms of bringing more value than just review your data, but we are trying to introduce a lot of editing capabilities. So be able, for example, to adjust your design data inside the hologram so that you don't need to go back and forth between the design process with the CAD system. We are introducing a lot of technology to be able to detect, for example, collisions, to detect intersection with other parts. And we are working really to make possible for everyone, also in industry that are not just in the manufacturing, to get the advantages of the augmented reality in general. And overall, there is one very important point. I think recently we have all seen a lot of advertising about the metaverse. And it looks very powerful, but I think that a lot of companies, they are struggling in figuring out how does it fit with the professional usage of this technology. Because we see also that a lot of the look and feel is very consumer oriented, and it's very fun and it's very engaging. But then when we get to the point, how can I use it professionally? A lot of companies, they have having doubts. And because of the experience we have, and as you said, we believe we are real professional in this sense. We are trying to reshape the concept of the metaverse for a proper professional industrial usage. So we are actually deploying and working on a monthly basis to create this professional metaverse in a way that you can work with it. And you can work with professional application applied to real use cases for industry, so that they can work with this technology and not just see it as an entertaining technology.
Yeah. So if you are interested in setting up something like an industrial metaverse, and if you see Aries as part of that, then feel free to reach out to us, and we can dive deeper into that, because as you say, like every company is now looking on a metaverse strategy, so it makes totally sense to take also this perspective into account. Okay, Jannick, I'd like to come now to the getting started part, and that's kind of your business. So can you maybe introduce what is like something like a starter package? How could people get their hands on such a technology, such a use case, and what would you recommend?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend to go, or I've made personally the best experience with the clients to bring them to the success when they started with a starter package, which includes 2 licenses, so that you can benefit from the shared experiences within the multi-user mode. And by using all the computing power of a powerful workstation to stream all the complex data. And that's available for less than 10K, so around about 10,000 euro. And I would say for a business case like that, to evaluate it within a proof of concept, that's a really little invest. So that would be my suggestion, but there's also the opportunity to try out the software by downloading it with the Microsoft HoloLens directly from the Microsoft Store. For the streaming version, you can download the server application from our website as well. In the download center, you will find it there. But then I would also recommend to please go in touch with me, that we can speak about the different tools inside the software, that I can give you a little bit best practice in the use of the software. That would be my recommendation for you today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as we have seen today. There are a lot of functionalities, and you need to basically understand and learn also how to use them. Yeah. So that's the perfect way to go. And it's also, I think, a good message that especially if you start, you don't need to start with 100 licenses. It doesn't make sense. We have the companies that scale and that are ready also to scale. But as a starter package, I think that's a good way and a good approach.
And just about the demo. Please remember that when you download the demo, for example, from the store, all functionality are accessible in an unlimited time. The only limitation is you have to work with our demo files. You will not be able to load your own files, but every single functionality, some you saw through the video, they are all fully working, so you will be able to experience the whole application and understand the full potential.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Then thank you very much, guys, until here. I would say let's come to the question part, and for that I'll just get my laptop to see the questions a bit better. Also, first question is a technical question in terms of the video recording. So yes, we recorded the webinar and we will send the recording to every one of you via email, so you can review something or can share it with your colleagues. So that's for sure. Okay. So there's one question about the devices that we support. That's a good question, actually, because the video we showed were recorded on a HoloLens 2.
Correct. So today our target device is Microsoft HoloLens 2, and it's actually currently the only supported device. We have recently started to port our application also in the Oculus Quest 2 device, because as I said in the beginning, we still believe that also VR, it's an incredible scenario to work, and it applies to very specific use cases better than maybe AR. But we try to stay very focused on device we can trust and that we have experience, they can provide the correct solution for the kind of task we want to achieve. We see that there are a lot of devices on the market, and sometimes they look good, but then when you start to work in a professional way, you start to see the limitation. And for us, it's very important, and every client we work with, they have the correct experience and they get the right value out of it. And that's why we are very picky about selecting the device.
Yes. We have another question about the multi-user mode that we showed before. The question was whether people were in the same room or whether they were in a different room. That was a bit hard maybe to see.
Yeah, for sure the video wasn't make it clear the picture, but it's important to understand that we have actually developed one of the most robust multi-user system in AR. I think we are the only company on the market actually having an unlimited number of avatar already able to assess the same working session. But to go back to, are we working in a local environment or in a cloud environment and so on, we support both actually. So RS comes with two different ways to handle multi-user session. So we support local network communication, and this means that people can be in the same room and work in the local network, or at least be in the same local area network despite being in the same room and work with it. But we have also a cloud system that can synchronize a session across the world. So people can actually collaborate in complete different geo and share the same session at the same time with actually incredible performances. And what Jannick was showing before is actually a session in which the guest was attending from a different geo, and that's why you see the avatar. Because when you work, for example, in the same space, you have already the visual reference of the human being in the same room. So, but as I said, it's actually, we support both, and we have one of the most robust. And we don't have any limitation in the number of people that can actually share the same session.
Yes.
So this is a very interesting functionality, in my opinion.
I have a very interesting question that goes about the future of the HoloLens platform, because there were rumors saying that there will not be a HoloLens free version. I just went to Microsoft 2 weeks ago and had a conversation with them about this topic, and the feedback that we have and that every Microsoft member gets also down from Satya Nadella, the CEO, is that they continue to invest in mixed reality, and they will go on with this topic, and there's nothing cancelled, and that's like a very important message. So they go on and they move forward, and even if the device is not called HoloLens 3, there will be a future version of a device. I think that's an important thing.
Maybe we have an update for you.
Yeah.
Because right this morning we were with Microsoft
perfect.
and with the team that is actually working in developing a lot of the functionality of the HoloLens 2, and we had this discussion, and as you just said, they are reassuring us on a weekly basis that they are keep developing actually for the current device, and they are actually trying to make as much as possible the HoloLens become also a consumer device, so to get more distributed around the world in terms of what you can do with it. So it's pretty clear that there is the future for the device.
Yeah, so they will not go with a small update of the hardware. It will be like a evolutionary step.
Yeah, for sure.
And yes, nevertheless, we are also going a cross-platform approach. So as you just mentioned, HoloLens 2 is a very good device and very interesting. Yeah. But there are other platforms that we will support in the future, and there will be more to come. There's a question about the development of augmented reality within BMW. Jannick, maybe you can frame that a little bit. How was which steps did we take within BMW until today? Just a quick summary.
I will try to give a quick overview about this because it's pretty complex. But in the end, it all starts back in 2016. This was an interesting time with the HoloLens 1. And there, the first request from BMW was to just visualize a JT file of them, which they can export out of their CAD system, the Teamcenter in this case, a database. And from there on, it was a journey together with them, because we have seen in the videos a lot of tools, of course, collision detection and so on, and that's all based on feedback from and commitment from BMW. So they definitely created the software together with us, I would say, so that's the way for it. And today, of course, there are challenges, like I was mentioning in the beginning, like the IT stuff and so on, all the data systems. And here, since quite a while, we are dealing with these things. We are doing the job.
So I think what's important to understand is that they experienced things with HoloLens 2. They learned a lot about the technology. That was a time when things were quite new for the entire market. But what we could really see is like that huge increase of interest in the last 12 months, I would say, and still ongoing, that department per department is more interested in that. And this is not only a BMW phenomenon, it's really across the entire industry. So the acceleration there's an acceleration in the market.
And if I can add here something, it's not only about the use case we have seen in the video, it's not only the prototyping use case. So you can imagine there are several other fields where the use of augmented reality makes sense, because also automotive companies, they have the scenario of layout planning as an example, as Gabriele was mentioning in the beginning, of the whole production cells, FANUC cells and so on. So there are different use cases also in quality assurance. But the one we have picked up was the one we can publish officially with numbers behind, and that's also the use case where I'm happy to say we have won the multi-industry award at the last Microsoft HoloLens 2 Summit, which is located here, a good one.
But actually, I think what we learned out of the experience with BMW is that everything starts with one department. We just need someone that see already a value in working with one of these functionality, or even just in displaying CAD data in the real world. And we have seen as soon as they start to show what they are doing and what they can do, and the curiosity and the interest from other departments immediately grows, because they start to face the fact that, oh, I don't need any more the physical product, or, oh, this is way more flexible. I don't need to go in my test room. I can do it in my office, sitting in my chair. So it's a step-by-step process, because you see immediately the value, but as I said before, a lot of tasks, they were designed around the physical product. And now that the physical product is not there, how can you make it smarter? Because to try to redo the same thing sometimes is not the best choice.
Yeah, yeah. So I would go for one last question. There's a question about how the real-world referencing is working and whether it's possible to do that with QR codes. So Jannick, do you want to take this?
Yeah, so for now, QR code tracking is the most stable way to track a 3D object and to do a digital overlay, I would say. We are also looking for other options, like currently Gabriele and his team are developing on an automatic object recognition a tracking method inside the Aris software, which we release Gabriele,
yeah, later this year. Actually, as Jannick was mentioning, we are working on different approach, because the manual alignment and the QR code, they are very well established. We are very familiar with it. But we see a lot of new technology in terms of object recognition, image recognition, space recognition. And we are keeping the development open in this direction to always look at the best technology, and we are trying to improve this in order to really be able to simplify the process and make it more reliable and stable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But for now, QR code tracking, and that's also a really flexible way everybody can use. So we have the magnetic QR code markers. You can place them on machines directly, as an example. So
yeah, so there's a lot of different functionality to work with the positioning of holograms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Guys, I would say to not stress the time too much, I would say we close here. Dear audience, thank you very much for listening today, for watching. Right after the session, there is a feedback sheet. So if you would like to give us feedback, we are very happy for that. As said, we will send the recording. If there were any open questions, we will reach out to you and do a follow-up. For now, I would say that's it for today. Thank you very much. Hopefully we see each other in one of our other webinars. And feel free to reach out to these gentlemen. Yeah. We will share the contact details of Jannick afterwards. And then, let's take it from there. So thank you very much,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.